Okay, now we're all set up to operate on HF packet. We're going to do a status check to verify what stream is the current input-output stream as described in the previous video. So let's see where we are. Right now we're on stream B on the HF port. Remember, if you're using a Kam XL, it won't say V or H to show you what port you're on. It's going to either say 1 for HF or 2 for VHF. So if you're using a Kam Plus and you do a status check, it might say A/1. That would be stream A on the HF port, the one indicating HF. But we're going to do a stream switch and go over to stream A on HF. Verify that with a status check, and it's showing we're on stream A. Now we're going to do a monitor heard command, MH. It's going to tell us what stations were recently heard. So we're going to get a call sign. If the call sign had an SSID, it will show that. The first one on the list is KQ0I. That's my friend Mark in Iowa. His SSID is -7, and he was heard on the HF port. You'll see there's an asterisk after the H. That means he was not heard directly, he was heard through a digipeater. So we heard several stations here on HF, and one station down here on VHF, one of the local bulletin board stations, KD8TUV. So if you want to see what digipeaters these were heard through, we're going to do a monitor heard command, MH with a space, and then L for long. And it'll give you the long listing that'll show the digipeater path. So let's go back up here and see what we can find for Mark. Okay, he may have scrolled off the list. He did, but we'll just look at one of the others. This KB9SOZ was heard on HF, and he was heard via a digipeater. The asterisk will show the digipeater that we actually monitored. In this case, it was W4KUM. If there was more than one digipeater in the path, like down here, W6OAV-6 was heard on the HF port. This asterisk after the H shows it was heard through digipeaters. And he had 3 digipeaters in his path. We actually heard him through the N0HI-2 digipeater. So lots of stations here. We're going to take a look down here at WA5ETK. That's my friend Gene in Amarillo, Texas. So let's see if we can do a connection to Gene. We already know we're on the HF port, so I'm just going to do a connect command, C space WA5ETK-1. Now that actually is a bulletin board. Oh, well, somebody's connected, so I guess we can't go there right now. Let's try another one. Let's try KE0GB, KE0 Golf Bravo-1. I forgot the connect command C, KE0 Golf Bravo-1. Now that station is my friend Rick near Colorado Springs. Now he is not using a TNC, he is using a Raspberry Pi. So this is not going to look quite like some of the stations in the previous video or the commands in the previous video. So we'll wait for his sign-on message to finish here. Now remember, HF packet is at 300 baud. It's not going to come up on your screen as quickly as VHF. This is a bulletin board station in a BPQ system. A BPQ system is a very useful system. They have automatic message forwarding worldwide. If I wanted to send a message to someone who is registered in a BPQ system anywhere in the world, I can do that at any BPQ bulletin board station. And it will forward that message to whatever that station designated as their home station. So in my case, I have designated Rick's bulletin board here, KE0GB-1, to be my home station in the BPQ system. So anyone that puts a message addressed to me anywhere in the world, in any BPQ station anywhere in the world, it will automatically forward to Rick's bulletin board there in Colorado Springs. I can either get my messages directly off the bulletin board by connecting to KE0GB-1, or Rick has his system automatically configured to forward my messages directly here to Michigan to my station, to my TNC at K8BZ-1. Now, I don't have any messages currently in the system, but I'm just going to list the last 5 messages using the LL5 command. That will list the last 5 messages that were put in the system. Chances are they're all going to be bulletin messages, but not necessarily. There's a private message that was forwarded. The next message here is a bulletin message. We know that from the B for the message type. And normally I wouldn't see private messages addressed to another station. The only ones we will see in the list are ones either to or from your station if they're a private message. But we can see this one on the list because it's actually from my station, K8BZ. So those are the last 5 messages. So just for a demonstration, even though this message has already been forwarded to W60AV, we'll go ahead and read it just for our demonstration. So we're going to do an R for read message number 29753. That's the message number here. So using the R command, I can go ahead and read this. Now this isn't a message to me, it's a message from me that I sent to Bill. And Rick's BPQ station automatically forwarded that on to Bill, who is also in Colorado. And this was a message I sent up to the BPQ system just a few minutes ago. And I actually used a program called Outpost that handles packet messages very similar to email messages. And I basically responded to a packet message from Bill, W60AV. And when you reply, using the Outpost program, it will automatically put the original message at the bottom of the text area for the message. How to do all this has been described in previous videos on this playlist, so I'm not going to get into describing how to use Outpost and all these automated features. There have been extensive videos made on that in this same playlist that I've made here. So just showing you how you can read a message. Now I'm going to disconnect by sending the B command, B for goodbye, and we'll see if we can connect to back to Gene's station in Amarillo, Texas. Hopefully it won't be busy right now. Okay, so we've disconnected, so I'm going to connect to WA5ETK-1 and see if we can get connected. And Gene is using a Kam XL. It shows right here what type of equipment he's running for those folks who use the TNC. So we're going to send Gene a message. So we're going to use the S command, WA5ETK. And it's going to ask us for the subject. Now, we don't have to wait for these prompts to complete. I'm just doing that. I'm waiting for them to complete so it doesn't interfere with your viewing of the video. But I can go ahead and put the subject in. Demo your station. Okay, the message is saved. I'm going to use the L command to list the messages on Gene's bulletin board. And we'll see this message on the list. Now, the sign-on message said there were 6 messages on his bulletin board. We may not see all 6 of those. We will only see the messages that we're authorized to download or read, and that would include private messages to or from us or bulletins. So even though there are 6 messages on the bulletin board, it only showed us 2 on the list because the remaining 4 would be private messages that weren't to or from K8BZ. So basically they were none of my business, so it doesn't even show me them on the list. So we've asked Gene if we can use his station for a demonstration. So we'll disconnect, and when we get that reply, we will see if we can continue on with using his station in our demo. I'm quite certain that we've received a response back from Gene. I noticed the mail light blinking on my TNC, which means I have unread mail. So there's an excellent chance that Gene responded to our question. He probably connected to me on HF and left a message there. Now at the command prompt, I can do a PH for a list of stations that have connected to my bulletin board for PBBS heard list. So that's going to show us that the last station that connected was WA5ETK. That was Gene, and he would have connected at 1617 and disconnected at 1621. So I'm going to connect to my own bulletin board by connecting to K8BZ-1. Now it doesn't matter what stream we're on or what port we're on. This is all an internal connection. There's nothing that's going to go over the radio from this, but it's going to connect just as if we were connected by radio to a bulletin board. But there is no transmission over the air. This shows I have 1 message waiting. It only shows unread messages. There might be several messages on there for me, but there's only 1 that I haven't read yet. So we'll list the messages. And here is a private message from Gene that came in at 1619. So if we want to read that, it's message number 16. So we'll read 16. And Gene says, sorry, I've been on landline. And he said, sure, no problem on a demo. Having to deal with Medicare people, yuck. Okay. So Gene has given us permission to go ahead and use his station for our video. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll disconnect, and we'll move on with some more demonstrations of using Gene's station to make connections and hopefully some crossband connections. Let's see what we can do making some crossband connections. First thing we need to do is connect to Gene's node on 20 meters. So we're going to connect to WA5ETK-7. And we know that Gene has his Kantronics Kam command in his TNC turned on. Gene's using a Kam XL, and so in order for us to make crossband connections, he needs to have that command turned on. We know it's turned on because we see this X as an option on the input prompt line. That X indicates that you can make a crossband connection. So we're going to do a J command. This will list the stations just heard. It'll show us what port they were heard on, whether they were heard through digipeaters. And this may take a minute because the Kam XL saves more heard call signs than the Kam Plus. So this will be a fairly long list. Might be another call or two that will be listed there. But while it's finishing, we can kind of look down the list and just review what all this means. This is the call sign of the station heard. The slash, because he's using a Kam XL, it's not going to have an H or a V as in Victor for the HF or VHF port. It's going to have a number 1 or a number 2. Number 2 is the VHF port. The number 1s are stations that are heard on the HF port. Now it's finished the list. So we can go down and look through the list. If we want to make a crossband connection, we can look for someone heard on port 2 that has a -1 in the call sign. That would be a bulletin board. Let's see if we can find one here. KE5JC. Now let's try this one here. KE5JC. Even though that's a -2, I know that that is Mike in Texas, and he does have a bulletin board on VHF. Now this is probably a digipeater call or some other special purpose call, so we're going to do try to connect to his KE5JC-1, which I know is his bulletin board. Now we don't want to connect on 20 meters. He was heard on port 2, which is the VHF port. So we're going to use the X command. So we're going to type X KE5JC-1, and then I'm going to put another optional character after the call sign. It's S for stay. If I connect to him and then later disconnect, it won't disconnect me from the W5ETK node that I'm connecting through. So here we go. We're going to see if we can make a crossband connection. Right now this HF frequency is very busy. There's a lot of packet signals on it. But that packet was already acknowledged by the node. I can tell because the status light went out. The status light on the TNC means you have an unacknowledged packet in the transmission queue. So that went out, so I know that it's been received by the node, and the node is trying to connect to that station on VHF. And if and when it connects, it will let us know. And I just realized something. I had a typo in the call, so I'm going to abort this. If I type the word abort and send it to the node, it's going to abort whatever it's attempting to do. So we're going to try this again and use the correct call sign. We're going to do XKE5CJ, not JC-1, and then use the stay option. So we'll give it another try. Okay, we've waited a sufficient period of time and it's not making the contact, so let's abort that one also. Okay, that connection's been aborted, so we're gonna send the node command, and we want to get a list of nodes that have been heard by Gene's station. And when this list completes, we'll take a look. Maybe we'll have to use a node to connect on VHF to get to another station crossband down in Texas. Okay, the node list is completed. There's one node here that was heard on VHF that I've used before. So let's see if we can connect to that node. We're going to do a crossband connection, so we'll use the X command to MOORE, and we'll use the stay option. And that didn't take long. So what has happened here is we connected from on 20 meter packet to a node in Amarillo, Texas, WA5ETK-7. Then we connected from there on VHF to a node in Texas called MOORE, M-O-O-R-E. And then from that, we are going to see if we can connect. There won't be crossband now, so we're back to using the C command, and we're going to connect to, let's see, KG5JLD, and that's a known station that I have connected to before. So that went to Gene on 20 meters. It went from Gene to MOORE on VHF, and the MOORE node sent this response. It's attempting a downlink to KG5JLD-1. So we'll have to see if that's successful, and it is. So I'm actually going through two nodes. I'm going through a node I'm in Gladwin, Michigan. I'm going through a node in Amarillo, Texas. It's going VHF to another node, W5GAF. I'm not sure where that is in Texas. I can check real quick here on QRZ. And we'll see where W5GAF is. Okay, W5GAF is the Pringle Communications Group. It must be a club call sign. Appears to be in Amarillo, Texas also. And from there we connected to a bulletin board station, KG5JLD. I know that that is David, but we'll look here real quick. KG5JLD, just to see a little bit more about who that might be. Not a whole lot of information, but we've got the name David. So we'll leave David a message. Matter of fact, we left him one the other day. Let's see if it's the one message that's still on the bulletin board and if he's read it yet. He's using a KPC3, which is a Kantronics VHF only TNC. We see that from this indication on the sign-on message. So there it is. There's the message that I left on, well, he doesn't have his clock set in the TNC. That's why it's showing the date as 12/27 of 99. We're going to go over setting the clock in the TNC. If you want dates to be displayed properly, you want to set your clock to the correct time. So we're just going to send him another message, KG5JLD. And I can go ahead and put the subject line in. I don't have to wait for the prompt. DEMO. Subject is demo. And now we'll wait. I could start typing the text of the message, but we're going to wait till it sends the response to these prompts. It's a little easier for demonstrations if you leave that so the viewers can actually see what's going on. When it prompts you to enter the message, then you know that it got the addressee and the subject. So let's see, we're going to say, "Hi, David." So there we go. 7.3 from Steve. KBZ/EX tells the TNC that the message has been completed. Now, because we're going through 2 nodes to get to him, this takes a little while for all these packets to get through the chain. And there we go. The message is saved. To disconnect, I'll send the letter B. Now, because I used the save option, it's going to disconnect me from David's bulletin board. It'll also disconnect me from the More node. And then we'll be back at the WA5ETK-7 node in Amarillo. And because I used the stay option, It won't disconnect me from there. Remember when I connected to more, I used the stay option after the name of the node. So I'm back here at WA5ETK. I'm going to send the B command to disconnect. And that will conclude this portion of the video. So stay tuned for the next, and we'll show you some more things you can do with Packet on HF 7.3.